We just published a study in JAMA Pediatrics about the effects of gun violence in movies on children's interest in real guns. Kids think movie characters are cool, and past research has shown that when kids see movie characters smoke cigarettes, they're more likely to smoke cigarettes themselves. Research has also shown that when kids see movie characters drink alcohol, they're more likely to drink alcohol themselves. But we know virtually nothing about the effects of movie characters who use guns. And our research focused on the effects of when kids see movie characters using guns, are they more likely to use guns themselves? This is the first study of its kind that's ever been conducted, although for the past 25 years or so, I've been doing lots of research on aggression and violence. Although the U.S. is about 4 or 5% of the world's population, American citizens have over 30% of the world's guns. Unfortunately, 60% of gun owners don't secure their weapons. Therefore, about 1.7 million children in the U.S. live in a home with an unsecured gun. And on average, about 40 kids are shot with a gun every day in the U.S. So in our study, participants were tested in pairs. The participants were 8 to 12-year-old children, and they knew each other. They could be siblings or maybe cousins or friends. So the kids came to our lab in pairs. There are 104 children in total, 52 pairs. And we just told them we're interested in what kids like to do in their spare time. Watch movies, play with toys, play with games. So we said, first we're going to show you a movie. And by the flip of a coin, we showed them a PG movie, either National Treasure or Rocketeer. It turns out it didn't matter which one they saw. And they saw exactly the same scenes from these movies, but in one group, we cut the guns out of the scenes. So the children were randomly assigned to see a PG movie clip, about 20 minutes long, with or without guns. The scenes were the same. And then after, we told them, okay, the next part of the study, you can go in this other room, and there are lots of toys and games. We're interested in what kids like to do in their spare time, what games and toys they like to play with. So for the next 20 minutes, you can play with the toys and games in this room. We had video cameras in the room so we could see exactly what they were doing. And in the room, there was a cabinet with an unlocked drawer that contained a real gun. It was a .38 caliber handgun. It was unloaded, and in fact, it had been modified to include an infrared counter that counted the number of times the kids pulled the trigger with enough force that it would discharge the weapon. So we were interested in whether the movie they saw before they went to play in this room influenced their interest in this gun, if they found it. About 72% of the kids found the gun that was hidden in this drawer, and among those, 21% told an adult about it, told the researcher about it. About 36% did nothing, just left the gun in the drawer, and about 43% actually handled the gun, picked it up. And we know how long they handled it because we were videotaping their behavior so we could count the number of seconds that they handled it. And we also know how often they pulled the trigger because we modified the gun with an infrared counter to count the number of times they pulled the trigger with enough force that it would discharge the weapon. And the results showed that kids who saw the movie with guns held the gun about 53 seconds compared to about 11 seconds for the kids who saw the movie without guns, so almost 5 times longer. And on average, kids who saw the movie with guns pulled the trigger of the gun about 3 times, compared to basically none, 0.01, for the kids who saw the movie without guns. So clearly seeing a movie with guns just for 20 minutes, influence kids to hold the gun longer and pull the trigger more times than seeing exactly the same movie without the guns. Some of the behaviors we saw the children engage in were quite shocking, and also the parents watched through a hidden camera what their children were doing also. And so, for example, one child pointed the gun at his friend's head in the temple and pulled the trigger. Another child pointed the gun out the window of the laboratory where we were conducting this study and pulled the trigger at pedestrians walking by on the street. Other kids threatened to hit their friend with the gun. So we saw a variety of different disturbing behaviors. I think there are 3 take-home messages from our study. One for parents, one for the movie industry, and one for gun owners. For parents, we would caution them of exposing their children to movies containing guns. We did another analysis that was recently published showing that the number of acts of gun violence in movies has increased dramatically in PG-13 movies. In fact, it's more than doubled since the PG-13 rating was introduced in 1985. So kids see lots of guns in movies. Kids think movie characters are cool. They're likely to imitate them. If they smoke, they want to smoke themselves. If they drink alcohol, they want to drink themselves. And now our study shows if they use guns, they're more likely to want to use them themselves. The second take-home message is for the movie industry. Movies currently contain ratings for alcohol and for tobacco, but there are no ratings for guns. Yet guns are much more lethal and dangerous than tobacco and alcohol. So we would advise the movie industry to put warning labels on movies that contain guns. And the third take-home message is for gun owners. In the United States, of course, we have the legal right to own guns, but only 60% of gun owners secure their weapons. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all gun owners secure their weapons, and so a child doesn't accidentally find the gun and get shot themselves or shoot somebody else with it. So those are the 3 take-home messages from our study. That's a good question about whether this research translates to video games. We're actually conducting a follow-up study right now in our lab using video games. So hopefully we'll be able to answer that question soon. Well, the Supreme Court against the state of California decided that video games are protected under the First Amendment. So you can't card children who attempt to buy violent video games in the same way you can card children who attempt to buy cigarettes or alcohol. That decision was based on the First Amendment, not on the research evidence about the harmful effects of video games, which is pretty convincing. We hope this research will be influential and informative to parents, to the movie industry, and also to gun owners, because we should be basing our beliefs about the effects of movie characters using guns on scientific evidence rather than common sense or gut feelings or opinions. So now we have some scientific data showing that kids are just as likely to imitate movie characters using guns in the same way they imitate movie characters smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol.